Hello and welcome to the first episode of the Alpha Movement podcast in 2018. My name is Tom Foxley and I help functional athletes create a champ's mindset. That is a mindset that serves them as opposed to hinders them. And first of all, of course, I want to wish you a very, very happy new year. And today, I'm going to be talking about 6 ways to have the best CrossFit Open you've ever had. Now, the Open is a time that pretty much every CrossFitter competes in. And I think that it's about time that people understood the mental side of it a bit more. Because you get a lot of bullshit tactics out there, frankly. You get a lot of try this, and most of all, it focuses on, let's say, tactics that don't particularly affect the outcome. Because, frankly, with 6 weeks out, there's only so much physical training or physical adaptation that you're going to get before then. Whereas most people don't have an effective mindset training, and this is the thing that's going to have the biggest implement. It's like, say you've never trained before and then you do 6 weeks of training before the CrossFit Open, you're going to do much better as opposed to if you didn't. And it comes down to mindset. If you haven't done much mindset work, then you can do a few bits and pieces and it's going to have a huge impact on on your achievement levels. So the first one is a broad step, and that's to get the rest of your life in order. And I know that sounds a huge task, but there's simple things you can do. For example, looking at your commute, are you expending too much energy in there? Or what about work? Is work stressful? What about your relationships? Are they stressful at the moment? Is there an undercover or an underlying tension that you need to address before the CrossFit Open comes about? So getting the rest of your life in order is, I know is a broad sweeping statement, but I think by listening to this and maybe spending a few minutes here and there, adhering to it and going into what getting the rest of your life in order means, I think you can really make some huge progress in this area. You'll know what it is. You'll know the area that you need to work on. The second point is to learn your language. And this is something that I get all of my athletes to do when they are in my inner athlete performance camp or whether I'm working with them on a one-to-one basis. But learning your language is the first step because it's an indication to your beliefs. It's an indication as to how you're going to perform, essentially. So what do I mean by learning your language? Learning your language is listening to the voice that you have inside your head. And this is the biggest step that you can take right now, right this moment, towards changing your mindset. Because most of us either try to block out the bad noise, the bad self-talk that we have, or we don't even know it's there. And we spend our whole life with this horrible self-talk going there, and it's just nagging away at us, and we're told to just shut it out. But that doesn't work. The first thing we need to do before we even start changing it is to listen to it clearly. So if you can record the self-talk that you're using, that's perfect. Which brings me on to my third point, which is to use, and you can take this as the shameless self-promotion that it kind of half is, but that's to use the Mindset RX training diary because it has a space for you to record your self-talk and record your wins from your training, and it's everything you really need to be using. But as I said, you can just use a notepad. You can feel free to just use a notepad, learn your language, and also count your wins from each training session as well. And I go into a bit more detail in a few places that I'm sure you can find. The fourth point is to consistently show up. You've got 6 weeks, about that, 6 weeks-ish before the Open starts. Let's start showing up a bit more often. I'm sure a lot of you will do if you're, I'm sure a lot of you will do already, but if you're not, that's a huge thing you can start doing. Get used to the intensity of the Open coming up, and get used to how intense those workouts are going to be by showing up a bit more consistently. And by showing up, I mean not only physically but mentally as well. Checking in, really thinking, okay, I'm present, I'm going to nail this I'm going to nail this session. The fifth point is to learn the arch principle. And I've spoken about the arch before on podcast. I've also got a blog post about it at mindsetrx.com/blog/the arch. But the arch is the mental side of varying your approach dependent on the WOD. And we obviously do this when it comes to different WODs. For example, you wouldn't hit Fran with the same intensity that you hit Murph, but mentally we tend to use the same techniques, but the same techniques don't work for each individual WOD. They don't work for all WODs at once. You've got to vary it. You've got to change them up. So we have to learn the arch principle, and we have to start applying it now, because if you don't apply it now, like say you're going to just get to the open and start applying it then, you're not going to know what works for you, and you're not going to know the most effective path to take. But by applying it now, we can start trial and erroring, and that's the error is the important thing. Making the mistakes earlier, not when it matters, is the key. And the sixth one, I'm sure you'll if you've listened to this podcast, resonate with this already, because I speak about it the whole time. The sixth point is just do less, okay? I said consistency, but that doesn't mean doing more. It means doing the right thing. Doing less is getting rid of all the bullshit, the stuff that's not really working, and focusing. Doing less outside of life, yes, but also doing less let's say superfluous stuff in the gym. Okay, and get in there, show up, do the work that counts, and then leave. And that, folks, is 6 ways to have the best CrossFit Open you've ever had. And I'm prepping for another interview right now with someone that I'm super excited to get on the show, and that is Erling Kag. And I wouldn't be surprised, because of the listenership here, if a few of you haven't learned who Erling Kag is, and he's going to have to excuse me for my awful Norwegian pronunciation. But Erling, he was the first person to summit the 3 poles, which are the North Pole, the South Pole, and Everest. And he also did the South Pole completely alone, the first person ever to do that, which was 50 days of skiing and walking in complete silence. And he's just released a book called Silence. And it's, frankly, I've just been away and I just absorbed that book. It was completely beautiful and completely life-changing, and the concept of silence is huge. So I'm going to be speaking to Erling on that, on his achievements, on the mindset behind spending 50 days, not even with radio contact, spending 50 days walking to the South Pole and skiing to the South Pole, and also Everest, and he's North Pole as well, and some other very interesting stuff that he's been doing. Anyway, with that, folks, have a fantastic start to your 2018, and I'm sure I'll be speaking to you soon, either with another solo episode or by speaking to Erling himself. And with that, I almost forgot to say, check out mindsetrx.com. If you enjoyed the podcast, subscribe, leave 5 stars on iTunes or wherever you listen to your podcasts, and check us out on social media, Instagram /Tom Foxley, Facebook /Alpha Movement Official, or Tom Foxley again. And I'll speak to you folks very, very soon.